Good morning.
Morning.
Uh, we'll see how it goes. We've been passing around some sinus nonsense in my house, so if I sound nasally, that's the reason. More so than usual, I should say. Probably just nasally in general, but that's what it's that's what's happening today. But this morning, I just want to take a few minutes of our time here to talk about the sermon I've titled "Playing the Hand We're Dealt," and it's inspired by Matthew 25:14 to 30, and that's the parable of the talents. And I know this sounds like I'm thinking of like a card game maybe or something. Awkwardly, all my references are gonna be like video games. Now, they're not gonna be like specific games or anything. And if you don't play games, don't worry. I'm not going like deep meta lore on anything. Like very surface level. And if you don't understand, grab me later. I'd love to go way more in depth than you probably care to even go into it. But we're just gonna loosely kind of use that as kind of the inspiration for this lesson here, as my kids freak out a little bit. But the outline for this morning is I want to start talk about our starting stats and kind of like whenever you play a game, your character usually has some sort of stats associated with them, and they kind of change how you approach the game. The difficulty settings associated when you play a game, like there's different levels you play at. Like you might choose easy if you're like a Craig player, normal if you're me, and like and hard if you're George, right? Like there's levels here of no, you all kind of pick the game you want to play here. I'm just joking. Craig's better than I am anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. There's different levels you can pick to play at, and this is the goal here. And I want to talk about co-op mode. That's where you like cooperatively play a game together. Fortunately, that's the life that we're living here, the Christian life that we have. It's not just a solo act. You get a team on your side here. And finally, I want to talk about the final score that's kind of tallied up at the end of our lives here after we've played the game of Christian life here, if you will follow me along this analogy. So starting text, we're going to look over in Matthew 25, verse 15. It says, to one he gave 5 talents, to another two, and to another one, each according to his own ability, and he went on his journey. And so this is the beginning of the parable. And just a small note, which we talked about a little bit in class. A talent is loosely thought to equal 6,000 denarii, and that's roughly equal to 16 to 20 years of work for a day laborer, which is a large sum. So, because at first when you think about this, is like the one guy are like, man, like he only got one. Like, what's he supposed to do with one talent? That's still a substantial sum, just to let you know. And they were specifically talking about like a money value here, but it's been very attributed to kind of like your skills and talents, if you will, that are bestowed upon us too. So as you look at the parable, it's very symbolic for us today. Not that God gives us specific money, like I'm going to give you $3 and you $2. He doesn't do that. He gives us different skills and abilities, though, that we can utilize in proper ways. Look over in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 6, it says, but to one and the same Spirit works all these things, uh, distributing to each one individually just as he wills. And so God's not kind of picking on someone if he doesn't give you the same starting stats as somebody else, right? If he doesn't give you the same blessings or talents or abilities as somebody else, it's not that he's like, well, I want Jordan to be short. Oh, I don't want him to talk well. I want him to be nasally today. Like, he didn't do that specifically like, haha, I got him. It's his will, and his will is phenomenal. It's the reason we have all of the great things that we have available to us. And it's just his will is what decided your starting stats. Does that mean that you're always happy with the starting stats and things that you have in your life? Maybe not. Sorry. Do I wish that my hairline had stayed differently? This, yeah, that'd been swell. Not the cards I was dealt. That's cool. I'll play the hand I'm dealt. But in our Christian lives, I think we sometimes try to jam ourselves into situations where it's like that's just not your strong suit. That's okay. Like God gave you these abilities, use them. Like just make sure that you use them is this important part. And finally, over in Romans chapter 12, verse 6, the starting part of it, it says, however, since we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, each of us is to use them properly. So once again, it's considered a grace. Once again, he's not like soloing out someone like, oh, this guy, he's my favorite. I'm going to give him extra blessing. This guy, he's smart. He graciously gave us all the things as he willed to make sure that we could satisfy and do the things that he has planned for us. And that's difficult for us to appreciate and see all the time. At least it's hard for me to appreciate all the time. And so, just in recap here, the talents given may not be equal. As we see from the parable, they all got different things here. Still a substantial sum in every case. And the same is true of us. The different stats and abilities and talents that you have are graciously, willfully given to you, and they are perfect for what God has called you to do. Once again, but it is according to how he wills and should be thought of as a grace. Never think that you got slighted because you don't naturally have this gift or something. God wasn't slighting you. He didn't exclude that from you specifically. He gave you exactly what you need. And sometimes maybe we wish we had a little more something different because we're finding ourselves in different situations. He gave you exactly what you need. These are the starting stats we got here. Now, difficulty settings. We look over in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. It says, "No temptation has overtaken you except something common to mankind, and God is faithful, so he will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able. But with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, so that you will be able to endure it." And so here we see that we're never going to find ourselves in a situation that we cannot overcome, which is awesome. Because if you're ever playing a game, sometimes you can get what's called soft locks. I mean, you can get stuck in a corner where you just literally can't do anything. Fortunately, God's a better game designer than most of the average Joes that make games. He made it so that you will never find yourself in a spot that you cannot get out of. And I think we justify that sometimes where it's like it's just the only I have to give into this temptation here. I have to sin here. I have to do that because otherwise, usually it's because it'll be uncomfortable with my friends. My coworkers will look at me different. I'll be like an outcast or something. No. If that's the justification, that is not the justification. God has given you a way out. You're never going to be put in a spot that you cannot get out of. You won't be tempted beyond what you're able, which is should be very encouraging to us because you won't find yourself as like God's given you these perfect stats, and He's not going to put you in spots that you can't get out of. Then over in James chapter 1, verse 2 and 3, it says, "Consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." Or endurance here. Sorry, I'm remembering from a different translation. But trials are going to come. I think a lot of us try to think that if we live a certain way or we can kind of sidestep hard things in our lives, they're going to come up. Be ready for them and handle them and appreciate them for what they are. This is basically, if you'll go with me in the video game round, you're leveling up here, right? Like you got to go fight some things here. You got to go challenge yourself here, and you're going to gain something. In this case, this is endurance, which is way better than some strength stat in a game or something. You're going to get something that you can use to serve him better later too. So not only are these trials something we should be happy about, we should kind of seek them out and embrace them when they come to really kind of hone in our skills and kind of get better and better and be the best Christian that we can be as we go through this life. Um, but these trials, this is where difficulty settings kind of come in, might feel different for somebody. Like the temptations that I feel, someone may have mastered those and beyond, but people they're tripped up by something that I'm like, oh, that's easy for me. And that's the confusing part when it comes to things. Years ago, a preacher gave an example of like if you tempted him with like a rattlesnake convention ticket, right? He's not going to care. First off, not a fan of snakes. He was like, I'm out of that, right? Like the same thing. If you tempted me with like Ravens tickets, no way. Like I, even if they're like, it's you like you get Seas Pass, but they're all Sunday morning, be like, easy, no. That's so easy for me, right? Steelers, we gotta talk about no. It's like but conversely with Craig here, he just burned those, right? Like it's like that's not for me, right? And so like the things that tempt us are different. I made light of things, but those are very serious things. Like he could be, you could be struggling. I could be struggling with something where Craig's like, I mastered that years ago, man. Just talk to me. That's the co-op mode. I kind of get ahead of myself here, but the difficulty settings are going to be felt a little differently for all of us, and just have patience and help people through their trials. If we look over in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15, it says, "For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things just as we are, yet without sin." And this is important because some people that create games never play the games. And then if you try to play them, you're like, this is actually impossible. Jesus came down here and played the game. He came down here and lived, arguably on ultra hard mode, if you will, because he didn't sin. And that's like kind of when we kind of cheat here and like I got to give in and kind of do this thing. It's not by the rules. Jesus didn't do that. So we have a perfect game master here. We have the perfect God here who can sympathize with us. That's awesome. Because if you really think about the grand scheme of things and the fact that he can sympathize with us little tiny creations, it puts me in awe because he actually understands. He was here and experienced it. And that changes everything because you can theoretically experience something and think that you know how it is. Um, like an example is like we read scriptures about like marathons, and I had done some running before. I was like, I get it. And then I did my first marathon. I'm like, now I actually get it. Way different than I thought. I thought I had it kind of understood. And then you experience it, and it's like that was very different and very hard. And wow, I get it now. It's like when I thought I was busy before I had kids. I wasn't. Now I understand the word busy. We just get appreciation as we go through things. And Jesus did that. Jesus came down here and he can sympathize with us because he understands temptation. He was there. And that's just awesome. So he understands the difficulties that we're working with here. And he's like, you can do it. I know you can. So every situation is beatable. It's really cool that we're not going to find ourselves in a spot that we cannot get out of without, you can do it without sin. And the trials are there to level you up. They're there to kind of empower you and to kind of encourage you and to get stronger and better for the future. And Jesus played the game before us, played it perfectly before us. So he understands exactly what we're going through. Finally, co-op mode. Galatians chapter 6, verse 2 says, bear one another's burdens and thereby fulfill the law of Christ. You're not alone in this. That's a great thing. If you ever play a game where there's supposed to be a squad of people and one of your guys is not there or dropped out, you feel it because you're like, wow, 3v4, two v4. This is really hard. And some people try to play multiplayer games by themselves, and it's significantly harder because it wasn't made for that. And I think in our Christian lives, we can sometimes think that we're alone. We're on this island where it's like it's just me against the world. It's not. Fun fact: God set up the church, I think, for that express reason. Like it's like you need somebody to help you through this thing. It's like you don't have to go it alone. Come join. Like we're here. That'd be great. And like once again, our difficulties and trials, the things we've gone through are extensive. I bet if everyone in here talked about the hardest thing they ever did in their life, we would encompass so many scenarios that maybe somebody's really struggling with. Now, I don't want to put people on this like blast and be like, "Hey, what's the hardest temptation?" Like, no, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna call out people, but just know that people have gone through hard things. Know that they're there to help you and to bear your burdens too. If this is a co-op game we're going here, our Christian life is a cooperative effort here. Don't forget that. Over in Romans chapter 15, verse 1, it says, now we who are strong ought to bear the weaknesses of those without strength and not just please ourselves. We are supposed to be generous with our strength that we have too. You're not supposed to just be like the top dog in the game and just go around and be like, haha, I'm way better than all these. Help them, like lift them up. If they're, especially if they are struggling with something, just give there because you can easily just be like, I got this. This is so easy for me, and just I'll just do what I want with my strength. I'll just go out here and I'll be this good Christian and I'll go out there and preach all these things. And your brothers here struggling next to you is like, hey, can I use your help? It's like, no, I'm too busy being real awesome and like going out here. That's not, first off, not awesome. That's not that's not what you're doing. God doesn't want you to do that. Use the strength, use the talents He gave you. As we're going to see later, He appreciated when people use the talents, regardless of the quantity of talents He gave them. Just utilize them in a way that would please Him. And finally, over in Ecclesiastes, verse 4, or sorry, chapter 4, verses 9 and 10, it says, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. For if either of them falls, the one will lift up his companion, but woe to the one who falls when there is not another to lift him up. You need somebody there. You're just better with somebody there beside you. Find that in the church here. We are here to help you. We're here beside you to lift you up, not to mock you if you start struggling or something. We need to encourage them to bind together. Here's the we are there because it is really sad if you fall down and you don't have somebody there to help to get you up. I awkwardly found myself in a situation where I was biking. This is in Cincinnati, so not mountain biking because that would have been way worse. But I was road biking on a spot, very flat ground, nothing crazy. I was going out, and my cog broke in half. How? I still can't even tell you to this day. I took it to the bike shop. They're like, "What did you do?" I'm like, "Rode for like 10 miles." They're like, "Okay, that seems suspicious." I'm like, "I don't know what to tell you. That's just what happened." But I was alone. Awkwardly, I was supposed to preach that night too somewhere else, and I was like 15 miles from where I lived, which is not, I can't run that fast. There was some timing problems. Fortunately, I had a brother who was like, "Hey, I really need picked up. I really need help because I'm stranded out here alone." Maybe silly to do that, but I promise I was in like main areas here. I wasn't going crazy, but I needed that help to kind of get me back there. Without that support, I would have been kind of out of luck walking 15 miles because I wasn't going to run with a bike, that's for sure. But you can just in your Christian life, you're not alone. Make sure you don't find yourself alone, and if you do, just reach out to people. We're here. We're here for you. Help others through hard times as they come up. And the strong have an obligation to help those who are struggling, not just to lord that strength over there and show how great they are. Help those who are struggling. And don't try to play this game alone. Okay? It is a co op game. Make sure that you have your friends and companions with you as you go through your life. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the final score that we're going to get at the end of time here. And over in Matthew chapter 25, verses 20 to 23. So this is kind of the end of our the parable of the talents here. We kind of see what happened with the people with the five and the two talents. It says, the one who received the five talents came up and brought five more talents, saying, Master, you entrusted five talents to me. See, I have earned five more talents. And his master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter the joy of your master. Probably heard it a lot, but I want to kind of just highlight briefly the good and faithful slave part, because he didn't say like good and renowned slave. Good and like faithful was the highlighted attribute here. It wasn't that he was so wealthy or that he made all this money or that he was so known across the land that he had such that wasn't what he appreciated. It was the faithfulness. And I think in our Christian lives, we can kind of forget that sometimes where we get so caught up in this world of like, I want to gain more stature, more money, more this, more that. I want to keep up with my neighbor who's doing these great things. I want to grab all these things. Be faithful. That's the thing that God's looking for, just the faithfulness is there. Over in verse 22, it says, also the one who received the two talents came up and said, Master, you've entrusted two talents to me. See, I have earned two more talents. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful slave. You were faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter the joy of your master. And just for note, verses 21 and 23 are identical. And I wanted to read them specifically because no, he didn't point out, since you only produced four total and not 10, you get a 40% stake in my heaven. No, that wasn't it. He was like, You properly utilize what I gave you, enter into the joy. That's great. So when our final score is tallied up, we're not going to be kind of put side by side and be like, well, you didn't produce as much as this Christian. Get out of here. Sorry, man. No, no. It's like, did you properly utilize your starting stats? Did you properly utilize the attributes, the talents that I gave you in your life? Did you do that? You did? Phenomenal. Welcome here. Did you kind of just go with the flow, like coast a little bit and not use your full potential? I don't know. We'll see what happens to the one. I saved him for the end, the one talent guy. Don't worry, he's coming up. But make sure that you use those talents that you're given. It matters in the end. But you're not, once again, if you're producing less than somebody else, that's okay, as long as you're fully utilizing your stats. And I think we get into this game of trying to compare ourselves to one another, be like, man, he's in such a different spot than me. He's doing these things way better than me. Are you using what you were given correctly? That's all God asks for. I should have asked Craig to lead the song about if just a cup of water you were given. That's all he expects. I thought about it probably when I started it. It's a great song because God's like, if I gave you just I only expect what I give you back. Like that's all I expect from you. Because I think sometimes we have these grandiose ideas in our head where it's like he needs me to go out and convert every country of every world. If that's your skill, if that's the talents he gave you, that's great. If you can just bring a friend from work and that's as close as you can get to talking to people because you're nervous in front of groups, that's great too. God needs all those people working together to get us all here in this church. And then over in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 10, it says, For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive compensation for his deeds, done through the body in accordance with what he has done, whether good or bad. So your score is counted up for what your deeds were. And that's important because if you find yourself part of a group that is like very evangelical, very, very good about doing these things, if you're not partaking, if you're not doing those things, you're not going to kind of get like packaged together, and be like, well, the Ellicott City Church of Christ goes in. No, no, that's not you. Your score matters. Using your skills matter. So as much as it is a co-op game, we get help while we're together here. Make sure you're using your skills to help that cooperative group along to make sure that your final score is good here. So just make sure that you use your talents, regardless of the quantity or value of whatever those talents were, because Judgment Day is coming. That is a fact. So you have to be prepared for that day coming. So in conclusion, God gave you the perfect starting stats for you. It may not feel like that all the time. You may wish that your stats were a little different, but He gave you exactly what you need and positioned you in just the perfect spot that He willed for you in your life. And that's really cool that He got you this perfect kind of scenario and sets you up for success. Sometimes we will run into difficult situations. The temptation will come upon us, and they may be different. Ask your friends what's going on. But luckily, we're not in a single player game, right? We're a cooperative group here. We're working together. Other people are here to help bear your burdens if you're struggling. And God will score you based on what you did with what you were given. So make sure that you're properly utilizing all of those stats that you got. And finally, the last verse, I want to come back to our one talent man. I only looked at a couple verses here, but he was nervous and buried the treasure. He didn't use it for anything. He just put it away, which is more than nothing in his defense, I guess. He secured it somewhere that probably no one would find it. Could be seen as doing something, but we see here in verse 26 of Matthew 15. But his master answered and said, "You worthless, lazy slave. Did you know that I reap where I do not sow and gather where I did not scatter seed?" He was not happy. He was not happy that he had wasted that. He even goes on to say, like, I wish you just put it in a bank. At least I would have got interest. Like, just you did nothing with it though. You hid away that talent, those stats, those abilities and attributes that I gave you. You did nothing with them. Verse 30, and throw the worthless slave into outer darkness, in that place where there be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I don't want anyone in here to be tossed aside like that. I don't want to be anyone in here to be considered worthless, lazy slave. Okay. Use what God has given you. He's given you these wonderful, fantastic stats that are incredible. Okay. I'm trying my best to do what I got here. Did I think I would be preaching once a month when I was a kid? Not exactly. I'm doing the best I can. Hopefully my stats equate to something that is okay for this position. I'm trying. Okay. Um, do I struggle? Absolutely, I do. Do I have it all together all the time? No. I'm figuring it out as I'm trying. But I know that I have you guys to lean on, and I heavily do, especially with the two little munchkins that I got. I know that I get a lot of support, and we greatly appreciate that. There's a side tangent to the sermon, but there's a lot of stuff going on, and I just use what you got. Make sure you do it because I don't want you guys to be this one talent man who squandered what he was given and was cast out in outer darkness. So if you have any need, if you're struggling here, if you aren't properly utilizing your stats here and want to level up, I don't, okay, I'm done with analogy, but if you got anything going on, need prayers, need help, or want to be baptized and join the team here, we'd love to assist you with any of that. Just come down as we stand and sing the invitation song.